To be born a Myrie in Jamaica is to be born into a legacy etched deeply in reggae and dancehall history. For Abihail Myrie, growing up as the daughter of Mark Myrie, internationally celebrated as Buju Banton, meant navigating a childhood wrapped in the heavy dual fabrics of immense privilege and profound absence. Buju Banton was not just a father, he was a cultural titan, the Gargamel, whose rough-edged vocals shaped the soundtrack of a nation. Abihail grew up in a sprawling, lively family dynamic alongside her siblings, bearing the weight of a legendary surname. Her childhood took a sudden traumatic turn when she was just 11 years old. In 2011, her father was convicted on federal drug charges in the United States, casting a dark cloud over the family. Demonstrating a maturity far beyond her years, a young Abihail stood before a federal judge, writing a deeply moving plea for leniency. She spoke of a father she could not imagine navigating adulthood without, a protective force abruptly ripped from her formative years. Buju was sentenced to 10 years, leaving Abihail to grow up under the watchful, demanding gaze of Jamaican society, while her father sat behind bars across the Atlantic. Education, adulthood, and carving a career. Left to define herself in the wake of family upheaval, Abihail focused heavily on her education and personal development. She attended high school in Jamaica, building a sharp intellect and a fiercely independent spirit. As she stepped into young adulthood, Abihail refused to sit passively in the shadow of her father's musical empire. Standing tall with striking expressive features, she chose to carve out her own legacy in the highly competitive world of fashion and digital media. By her early 20s, Abihail had successfully established herself as a prominent commercial model and social media influencer. Brands sought after her unique blend of modern sophistication and deep-rooted Jamaican heritage. She became an ambassador for various local lifestyle brands and built an audience of tens of thousands on Instagram. Her modeling milestones included high-profile campaigns that celebrated Caribbean beauty, fashion editorials that highlighted her natural presence, and consistent brand partnerships that positioned her as a fresh face in the local industry. Her career was a declaration of independence. She was proving to the world, and perhaps to her family, that she could build a name entirely on her own terms. The fractured dynasty, ideology, and the family feud. The initial euphoria of Buju Banton's prison release in late 2018 brought the family temporary peace. Abihail shared an emotional reunion with her father, celebrating the return of the man she had fiercely defended as a little girl. However, the transition from an idealized, distant father to an active patriarch proved incredibly challenging. As Abihail grew into a progressive woman with her own convictions, her worldview began to clash with her father's traditional, unyielding beliefs. The friction reached a boiling point during the heights of the COVID-19 pandemic. Buju Banton used his massive platform to aggressively push anti-mask and anti-vaccine rhetoric. Abihail, conversely, chose public compliance and openly distanced herself from her father's controversial stances. This ideological rift quickly breached their private home. By October 2021, the quiet tension exploded into a full-blown public crisis. Taking to Twitter and Instagram, the 21-year-old Abihail leveled shocking allegations against her father, claiming he had physically abused and strangled her during a fierce domestic dispute. The situation grew more chaotic when the Jamaica Constabulary Force officially released a missing person report for Abihail. The media circus went into overdrive. Her brother, Abihail Myrie, publicly questioned her narrative, while Abihail fiercely retaliated online, declaring that she was not missing, but rather hiding in a safe space out of sheer fear for her life. Through her newly retained legal counsel, she explicitly warned the public to ignore any reports of kidnapping, validating that she was alive but deeply traumatized. The iconic Myrie household stood entirely fractured before the eyes of global reggae fandom. The turning point, walking into the baptismal waters. Trapped in a vortex of public humiliation, family isolation, and relentless media speculation, Abihail reached an absolute breaking point. Realizing that the earthly structures around her, fame, status, and family loyalty, had crumbled, she sought refuge in spirituality. In a profound departure from her father's deeply ingrained Rastafarian lifestyle, Abihail turned toward evangelical Christianity. On November 2021, less than a month after the explosive family feud, Abihail stunned her followers by sharing photos of her baptism. Dressed in a pristine, pearly white gown, she smiled radiantly as she was submerged into the waters of a local church, emerging as a self-proclaimed child of God. The baptism was more than just a religious rite. It was an emotional shield. It gave Abihail a clean slate and a surrogate community that offered the unconditional validation she felt she had lost within her own bloodline. Interestingly, her spiritual bravery set a precedent within the family. Years later, her brother Jahaziel followed in her exact footsteps, undergoing his own Christian baptism after battling intense personal and spiritual struggles. The long road to reunion, forgiveness, and the sweet selfie. Time, distance, and shared grief have a unique way of softening even the most stubborn hearts. Following her baptism, Abihail quietly stepped back from the burning spotlight of public controversy. She focused heavily on her modeling career, guarded her mental health fiercely, and gave her father the physical and emotional space required to de-escalate their volatile dynamics. The Myrie family also faced profound tragedy, including the heartbreaking loss of Buju's son, Myles Myrie, which forced the remaining family members to re-evaluate the fragile nature of life and relationship ties. The true test of Abihail's newfound faith lay in the difficult act of forgiveness. Behind closed doors, away from the toxic interference of commentators and tabloids, father and daughter slowly began the grueling work of rebuilding broken trust. The volatile anger of 2021 slowly gave way to the deep, unshakable bonds of family. On March 2023, the world received definitive confirmation that the storm had officially passed. Buju Banton took to his official Instagram account to post a heartwarming, smiling selfie alongside Abihail. Both radiant and completely at peace, the physical resemblance between the two was undeniable. They were the absolute mirror image of one another. A legacy redefined. The story of Abihail Myrie is not merely a tale of celebrity gossip or a fleeting family argument. It is a powerful coming-of-age narrative about an independent young Jamaican woman who refused to let her identity be swallowed by her father's monumental shadow. From a fiercely loyal 11-year-old child pleading for her father's freedom, to a young woman battling that same father for her personal autonomy, Abihail has walked a uniquely tumultuous path. Through public humiliation, legal scares, and deep family rifts, she ultimately found her voice in the quiet waters of baptism and her peace in the hard-fought journey toward family reconciliation. Today, Abihail stands not just as Buju Banton's daughter, but as a resilient individual who navigated the ultimate trial by fire, emerging with her career, her faith, and her family wholly intact. Her modeling milestones, her spiritual courage, and her capacity for forgiveness have redefined what it means to carry the Myrie name. In 2026, Abihail continues to build her own path, one rooted in independence, faith, and the hard-won grace of family restored.